I burned the second flare and watched my own tracks slide across the light again, fresh, cutting left to right like I had just made them. I laughed at it. I said out loud, "Cute. Real cute." The wind took my breath and threw it in my face. The flare hissed. I stood there with red light bouncing off my rifle and the snow crust cracking under my boots, and I told myself I was fine. It started simple. Night patrol. Ice flat as a range target, broken by low ridges and old tank berms. I carried a rifle, a radio, a compass, a map, 2 flares, and a shovel. We joked about it at the staging point. Someone said, "Welcome to the moon." I said, "Better than the jungle. At least here everything tries to kill you honest." That got a laugh. We did checks. Radio up. Compass steady. Map folded to the grid. Nothing spooky. Just work. First hour went smooth. My radio was clean. I had the lead. I kept to the route. The snow squeaked in that way where you know it will hold you. I made tracks like a ladder. The sky was low and white, but I could see the next rise. I got bored and keyed the radio just to hear another voice. "Patrol 2, radio check," I said. 2, send it. Command came back. Normal tone. No rush. I felt good. We hit the first wind-carved gully, and everything went sideways fast. "Patch in 20 meters, my buddy behind me called." I looked back. His headlamp was a dull glow. He waved. I gave him a thumbs up. I dropped into the gully, climbed the far side, and turned to help him up. He wasn't there. His glow was further left, behind a low drift, like he had moved 5 paces without time for it. I frowned. "Hold," I said. "Where you at?" "Right behind you," he said. I stared. His light was 20 meters off. I waited for the joke. He didn't laugh. Wind kicked up. I went down the back of the rise, called him again. Nothing. I climbed up, looked. He waved from a different angle. Then his glow went flat like he covered it. I got a little mad. I threw a snowball. It hit nothing. I kept moving. He caught up, or I thought he did. Then I heard him on the radio instead. 2, tighten interval, command said. "Copy," I said. I looked back. The glow was gone. I shrugged. Safe enough. Keep moving. I told myself he knew what he was doing. I wasn't his babysitter. I kept the lead. I said a dumb thing in my head about him buying the first coffee. We crossed another low ridge and lost line of sight to the trucks. The wind got teeth and started to sting my face. I pulled my hood tighter. It made my hearing weird. Everything sounded close. My breathing felt loud. The ice made small cracking sounds like glass. I kept the compass up, checked my bearing. The needle sat dead north. I turned until the bubble was right. I walked. My feet felt sure. My head felt light. I told myself to drink water as soon as we paused. I keyed up. 2 on course. No answer. I tried again. Command, this is 2, radio check. 2, a voice said. My own voice. On my net. From somewhere ahead. It wasn't the radio. It came from open air, 10 meters out. I stopped. That was when I cracked the first flare. It popped and washed the snow red and showed me tracks, my tread, but not where I made them. They crossed in front of me at a clean angle, too fresh to be old. I laughed again, but it felt tacked on. We're doing circles, I said like it was a joke. I held the compass up to the flare light and the needle pointed at my chest. I tapped the glass. It slid, settled on my heart, like I was magnetic. I moved it away. It pointed back. I put it in my pocket and said, "Fine, we eyeball it." I followed the tracks. It made sense at the time. If I had been drifting, at least I could learn where. I told myself it was bushcraft. The wind ate my words. I kept talking anyway. "We'll turn you into a ranger yet," I told myself. My fingers started to go dumb, so I flexed them and pounded them on my thighs. My head itched under the helmet. The tracks led me to a small drift that looked like a good windbreak. I dug a knee trench out of habit. I kicked snow into a wall. I checked the radio while I worked, chest heaving. "Command, this is 2. I waited. Dead air. A click. Another click. Then my squad leader, flat. 2. Hold position. Help inbound. Do not move. Do not light." He never said it like that. He always said, "Stay put." And I had lit the flare 2 minutes ago. I checked the battery. It read full. I said, "Copy. Holding." I killed the flare and the world went bruise dark. Snow hissed over the lip of the trench. I dropped into it and waited. I counted 60 slow. The trench felt like a coffin. My own breath warmed my mask and then iced it. I was about to come up when something stepped on the edge, light, like testing. Not heavy like a man. A tap, scrape, pause. I held my breath. 2. My own voice said again, but it had a little static in it now. Not over the radio. It was air. It was 10 paces away. It came from the left, then the right, then straight ahead. 2. Holding. Copy. I popped up with the rifle and said, "Identify." Nothing. Just the wind. I hated the trench all at once. I had dug it to be safe, and now it was a hole where sound played tricks. I climbed out. I stood on the wall. My boots slid. I stutter-stepped down the other side, and the snow caved and filled my trench. That was my safe spot gone. It looked like it had never been there. I got mad for real then. I keyed the radio hard. "Command, I need a vector. My compass is acting stupid." "Turn to 180, a voice said. It was not my leader. It was the big voice from the staging point that had never talked to me direct. I did it anyway. I turned south. I took 3 steps and froze. There were tracks going south already. Same tread. Mine. Heel scuffed the same way, where I dragged that right foot when my calf cramps. I followed them because I didn't have a better plan. I told myself I was making progress because following anything beat standing still. The snow got shallow and then knee-deep and then shallow again for no reason. My map didn't show it. The ridges didn't match. I said, "Maps are just paper anyway." I heard a laugh that wasn't mine, close behind. I spun. Nothing. The tracks behind me blew in, fast, like something big walked there and pushed the snow flat. I saw a shape on the next rise. I raised the rifle. It was a post. Just a marker. I started toward it and the marker moved. It wasn't a post. It was a helmet with a neck and shoulders under it. I said, "Friendlies, call out." Loud and clear. The shape didn't call out. It stood. It wasn't quick. It didn't hide. It just was there. Not far, where the wind made little waves. Then it was just there, closer. No closing distance. No walking. I blinked, and it was 5 meters away, inside the red circle of light in my head even without a flare. It was the helmeted thing I had joked about in the trucks. The revenant from all the stories boys told to scare each other. It stood full in front of me for the first time. No trick light. No fog. Helmet frosted in a crust like sugar. Scuffed paint down one side where it had scraped something hard. Dull visor with no shine, just grit. Stamped serials on the rim. 7143-9. Small. Off to the left. A rank patch glued crooked on the front of the armor. 2 chevrons. 1 torn. Torn webbing hanging off the shoulder. No patches. No name tape. No steam from the faceport. The snow clung to the elbows like it had been on the ground and then stood up. It stank like old coolant. When it moved, the sound was a dry plastic knock, clip-tap, like a clasp hitting a stock. It canted its head, slow. I said, "Identify." My voice cracked. It didn't speak. It breathed in, way too slow. I heard it, a long, empty draw, like air going into an empty drum. On my radio, my voice said, "Identify." The radio wasn't keyed. I checked. My thumb wasn't near the button. The radio hissed anyway. Then it clicked and brought me my own words lagged back at me from a few minutes ago. "We'll turn you into a ranger yet." Same tone. Same stupid chuckle at the end. Hearing my own laugh on the net made my stomach slide. I backed up. It matched the angle, not the steps. The snow didn't cave under it right. It left print edges, but not depth. I lifted the rifle. I had no target. I aimed at the visor anyway. I said, "Last warning, because that's what you say." "2," the big voice said on the net. "Drop your weapon." That was wrong. They don't say that to their own. I glanced down at the radio, and when I looked back, the Revenant was arm's length away. It smelled like metal. My muzzle hit its chest plate. It didn't push back. It leaned. The visor where the face should be hung inches from my cheek. I felt air pull at the skin there, cold, like standing in front of a vent. Inside the visor, dark. No eye shine. No face. Just a skin of frost. Around the rim, the little screws were rusted. One was missing. If I had reached, I could have lifted the helmet off. I didn't. I don't know why I didn't. I said, very calm, "Back up." The radio said it with me, a half-second late. I did the only thing that felt like doing something. I fired the last flare straight up. It cracked in my hand and kicked and tore the skin on my thumb. The light punched the sky and hung. The Revenant didn't flinch. The snow around us glowed. Now every detail was plain. The rank patch had blood edge ground into the thread. The webbing had a little bead of frozen oil on it. The serials were stamped shallow like someone had done it with a tired die. On the visor, a smear where a glove had wiped at some point and left a stripe. The flare drifted. The light fell on the tracks behind me and showed what I hadn't wanted to see. There were 2 sets. Both mine. One set was older by an hour at most, edges rounded by wind. One set was fresh, sharp. They crossed and crossed. They made a figure I didn't like looking at. They made a map that led back to where I stood now. I had been following myself into a corner that didn't exist on the map because it was nowhere. The flare started to die. "Command, do you see my flare?" I yelled. I didn't care if it learned my lungs or my voice. I wanted a human to answer. The radio popped. "Copy. 2, my buddy said. He should not have had range. He should not have been on this net." His voice came thin. "I kept to your right." Then he coughed hard. He always coughed like that after a run. I said his name. He said, "I think I lost my helmet." The Revenant's visor brushed my cheek as if to get my attention, and the radio followed up in my leader's voice, too fast, like reading from a script. 2. Hold your position. Help inbound. Do not light. I looked at the Revenant. It had my unit patch now. I know it didn't when I first saw it. I had checked. I am not that kind of blind. My patch was on its shoulder, and the threads were torn the way mine was where a thorn caught it last year. That was when the jokes fell out of me. That was when the confidence cracked right through the middle. I dropped the map. It rubbed under my boot and slid. The flare ash fell on it and turned the corner to black. That was gone. Then the wind took the edge and folded it over, and it vanished under a skin of snow. It felt like a little thing, and it hurt more than it should. I said, "Okay." I don't know why. I said, "Okay" to the air. I tried orders. I tried being a soldier. On my mark, disengage. I said to nobody. I stepped sideways. The Revenant matched the angle again, not the footwork. It stayed arm's length and leaned with me like we were tied with a short rope. The sound in its chest cavity made that dry knock again. Its helmet touched my cheek once, gently, like someone tapping a coin on a window. I swallowed. I had the stupid thought that if I could read the serial right on the helmet, I would wake up somewhere warm. I looked. 7,143 minus 9. Not mine. Not anyone I knew. I breathed out slow. I made one more call. Any station. This is 2. Authenticate word is spare. If you know, you know. It's dead simple. The reply should come back with the right half. What came back was my mother's name, in my own voice, soft, not on the net. I hadn't said that name in months. I don't know how it knew it. Maybe I was talking in my sleep in the trucks. Maybe it was in my head. The helmet leaned in as if to hear better. The snow grabbed at my bootlaces. I did a thing I tell you not to do. I turned my back on it and ran. I ran blind. The world was just my breath and the wind and the taste of cold metal. The snow changed under me 5 times. Deep, shallow, crust, slush, back to crust. I tripped and hit my shoulder on ice and the pain shot to my fingers. I didn't stop. I held the rifle like a rail. I didn't think. I didn't look. I figured I would run until I hit something hard or fell into a hole. I'd take either. Behind me, nothing chased on the ground. I didn't hear steps. I didn't hear breath. I heard the dry knock, clip tap, always the same distance off my right shoulder. I ran until I cracked the ice crust and dunked one leg to the knee in a melt pool that wasn't on the map. That cold stripped everything in my head. I yanked my leg out. I couldn't feel my foot. I thought, that's gone. I kept going. The trucks found me at dawn by accident. That's what they told me. They weren't looking where I was. They said the flare was seen by another unit that was 10 kilometers off grid. That flare should not have been visible to them. They drove for it, and then they saw me. They hauled me up and shoved heat packs in my armpits and swore at me. My buddy crawled into the back and said, "You okay?" I looked at him. He had his helmet on. He had a scrape on the visor line like a tool had dragged there. My patch on his shoulder was torn in the same spot as mine. He coughed after the run to the truck. I tried to tell him what I saw and I got as far as rank patch, and he shook his head and said, "Sleep." I slept and woke, choking on a breath that wasn't mine. They took my compass. It pointed at me the entire day. The tech laughed and said it was a trick of the casing. He took the casing off. The needle slid and then pointed at me again. He stopped laughing. He put it in a drawer. "I don't patrol there anymore," I requested out. They signed off fast. I told this once to a group and they laughed because of the way I told the start. I don't mind. I did the same. I want you to. It makes it easier to start walking. If you go out there, and you will, because you don't believe me, do what I did. Take a radio. Take a compass. Take 2 flares. Walk until you lose the trucks behind a ridge. When the wind sounds close, key up and say, "Any station, radio check." When you hear yourself answer from 10 meters out, light the flare and follow the fresh tracks that cross your path. Count how many times they cross. Keep the second flare dry for when it stands in front of you. When it leans in, listen to the sound it makes. You will hear it later at your own door, in the heater, in the vents, in the blind part of rooms. It is a small, dry knock. Clip tap. I hear it now. If you want it to know you, say your name into the open air and wait. It will repeat you. Perfect. And you will laugh. And then you will stop. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, feed the algorithm, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe. It's the only way to keep the stories coming. And if you're brave enough, there's another one waiting right after this. See you on the next one.